So Sue, what's your association with Fitzroy?
Fitzroy's been the place I've lived and worked in for about 20 years now, since 1982 I think was when I first moved to Fitzroy. Mm.
And where did you come from before Fitzroy?
Where did I come from before Fitzroy? Carlton.
Yeah. So in the early 80s, was there a marked difference between Carlton and Fitzroy? Right on street or Brunswick Street?
Yeah, I think they're next door to each other, so they've been associated. And a lot of the people who were living in Fitzroy were attending Melbourne Uni or Melbourne State College or RMIT, so I think there's been a sort of long-term student population living in this area. I mean, my association firstly was that it was close to where I was studying. Yeah, so I was at Melbourne State College, so it was easier living in Fitzroy.
Yeah. And do you think it's since the early 80s that Fitzroy has changed much?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Have those changes been negative or positive?
I think the mixture of demographics of the people living in Fitzroy has become more problematic as time has gone on, with the combination of the real estate becoming suddenly valuable and people deciding it was worth living in the inner city rather than being the last place you'd want to be. Has meant that there has been, radical changes to the sort of people who live here and the sort of facilities and lifestyle that people want to have in the suburb. Yeah.
So by different people, you mean more affluent people?
Yeah, I mean, there's been an incredible increase in affluence in this area in the last 20 years. I mean, it's gone from being, when we bought our first house in Fitzroy, we bought it for $47,000. Now it's worth anything between $250,000 and $300,000. So that just demonstrates, I think, in a very financial way, the way in which the suburbs changed, and also the fact that the city of Fitzroy was a city, and now it's part of the city of Yarra. That's changed things a lot too. I mean, it was gone from being one of the smaller suburbs in Melbourne to one of the larger ones.
Yeah, at least in its democratic representation. Town hall closing down.
And I think that's really changed the sense of identification with Fitzroy as well.
Yeah, I interviewed Ralph, the last mayor with Fitzroy.
We always say hello to each other.
And why do you think that the property values have gone up?
I just think that people have realised what we always knew, was that it was a great place to live. The inner city was a great place to live. I don't think I think that the demographics changing and the way, although the flats are still here, of course, and that's obviously a great place for people to, a common place for people to end up when they've arrived in the country from somewhere else. And so that sort of multicultural aspect of Fitzroy is still strong, but the general householder in Fitzroy has gone from being, factory workers, students, people who need to live cheaply and had a very good reason for being in the inner city, to people who choose to live here for the sort of cosmopolitan lifestyle and access to, cafe society and, entertainment and being able to walk into the city to work. But I also think that a lot of people who live in Fitzroy also work in this area. And I mean, I've always worked, I've frequently worked in Fitzroy. In fact, working in Victoria Street now in the same building that Triple R's is in, and I worked for Triple R for years, so I mean, I'm still going back to the very same buildings even in the suburb and doing different jobs, but in the same locations. So, I mean, that's pretty strange, really. I get a certain sense of deja vu.
And do you think there's like any, you say that's interesting or good lifestyle in Fitzroy and the inner city? Do you think there's any dangers that could threaten that? Could make it like a really a shitty place to live?
Oh, I think the yuppification has definitely got its downside.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are you know, demanding quiet living conditions and parking spaces and all those sorts of things, which just don't go with this sort of these sorts of suburbs. And I think a lot of the sort of complaints to council, etc., are to do with people living wanting to live the sort of suburban lifestyle in the inner city, and it's a real mismatch of desire and reality, and it's very problematic.
Yeah, they have a suburban expectation.
Yeah.
Rejecting.
Yeah, I think also that you know, there is certainly a sort of large hard drug problem in this area, but that's not something that's distinctively in a city. I mean, there's just as many pockets of this problem in the suburbs as well, you know. And it also does move around a lot, you know, depending upon whether the police are coming down on drug users and drug sellers or not.
Do you think that's a new thing, a relatively new thing to the area, the drug problem?
No, I don't think the drug problem's new. I think it's become more extreme, and people are less secretive about their activities now. I mean, any day you want to walk up Smith Street, you either get offered or see drug transactions taking place, and it's just something you need to be aware of. I mean, there's a physical danger in accidentally treading on a syringe or something. I mean, you know, and there's certainly every second day when I walk outside the door, there's someone hitting up in a car outside the house, and that's a little bit concerning, but not so much for me. I think having a child in this area means that they have to, but they grow up feeling very aware of these things, and I don't think it's the security issue actually comes in when people want robbing houses to get some money. You know, that's really the main way that impacts on us. I haven't been robbed in this house yet, touch wood, but could always happen.
Is there any reason that you think the drug trade may concentrate in this area as opposed to other suburbs? Or
look, it's
open here, or?
No. I think people decide to that there is less trouble in one area to sell drugs than in another. I mean, I think there was a big swing from Fitzroy to Fitzroy a few years ago. And I just think like it just flows. Like if there's a big crackdown in one area, it'll spring up in another. And depending upon whether or not the police are being paid off sufficiently, or whether they're you know, got other priorities, or whether they just think it's not worth the trouble. I don't know, but I mean, if I wanted to go and investigate and do something about stopping the drug trade in this area, it wouldn't be very hard. I'd know exactly where to go. But obviously, you know, the police have decided for various reasons they're not going to bother. But I mean, anyway, just stopping a few minor drug traffickers and drug takers is not going to solve the problem.
Yeah, that's right. So, what do you think is that Fitzroy has that's unique about its identity? What makes its identity?
I love Fitzroy. I love the streets. I love the trees in the streets, big old trees.
So the physical layout. The
physical layout of Fitzroy as a village is really attractive. There's a certain I must say uniqueness, but a certain Victorian character which is not unique to Fitzroy, but has been largely preserved in this area, which is really attractive. I find it a very friendly place to live. I mean, when you live here for a long time, you tend to know a lot of people anyway, and walking down the street's always a social occasion, even when you don't want it to be. The supermarket, the shops, etc. I mean, I must say the thing I really miss is the closing down of a lot of the sort of normal shopping type of shops in the shopping strips. I mean, Brunswick Street has become, you know, one long entertainment zone, and that tends to.
You mean the day-to-day sort of?
Yeah, just not going down to buy the veggies, you know. or going to the deli. There used to be a fantastic deli in Brunswick Street, run by this old Italian couple, you know, and we used to love to go there because it was also a social occasion. You go and have a chat, you buy your cheese, you know, take my little boy when he was a little boy, and you know, you'd always get a big piece of cheese given to him as soon as he walked in the door, and you know, just a sort of the sense of being in a neighbourhood where you know and you know the people who you do business with, you know, on a sort of very domestic scale.
So Brunswick Street's become a bit of a tourist mecca on weekend?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I used to live in Brunswick Street. I lived in Brunswick Street for about 10 years, I think.
When was that?
From 1982 to 92? No, 82 to 87. Yeah. I lived in Brunswick Street. Opposite the Provincial. In fact, we used to call the Provincial the office. We're just going over to the office, but in the end, it was a noise of people getting into their cars at 3 a.m. Which and you know, having fun and making a lot of noise. I just in the end I couldn't stand it any longer. I had to move out.
So Brunswick Street was a lot rougher then?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, you know, the Provincial was a blood sports centre. You know, you had to have a reasonable amount of courage to walk in there occasionally. I mean, you know, there was quite a few very, very rough pubs around. I mean, there's still are a couple, but nothing like they used to be. I mean, the Builder's Arms used to be, you know, how many murders were there at the Builder's Arms? So between 1980 and 1990, I think there was about 8. You know, and now it's an incredibly yuppie pub. You know, Brunswick Street. I used to walk down Brunswick Street with my washing in a green garbage bag to the laundromat run by an ex-child sex offender. And occasionally think, oh my God, someone's going to see me with my green garbage bag of washing over my shoulder. But, you know, nevertheless, I mean, it wasn't that groovy an area. I mean, now you would not do that. I mean, you look like it would be a very funny thing to do, walk down Brunswick Street with all your washing over your shoulder in a green garbage bag. Yeah, I mean, a few places have maintained their character, like the Napier Hotel's always been the Napier Hotel. It's, you know, a slightly better run than it used to be. It used to frequently run out of beer when the guy who owned it hadn't paid his bill, things like that. And of course, Fitzroy Town Hall was the town hall when I was living in Napier Street, and you know, with a truly shocking council, so divided that council meetings used to turn into just about fisticuff fights every second council meeting, and nothing would get done because there's always a big brawl on between North Fitzroy and Central Fitzroy, and the council was totally divided along those lines.
And the North Fitzroy was the more conservative part of the suburb?
North Fitzroy was the yuppie end, and Central Fitzroy was the sort of down at heel end. And Central Fitzroy councils would be trying to get services working properly, and North Fitzroy was totally concerned with street cleaning and street trees and things like that, which was sort of decorative, but not essential. Whereas Central Fitzroy councils were always involved in trying to keep sort of basic services happening. You know, we used to have a fantastic tool library at the library, where you could borrow, you know, a drill or a shovel or, you know, anything like that. That disappeared. But yeah, I mean, there used to be really good services in Fitzroy, which simply are no longer here.
Services for
local services, community services. I mean, there still are a few beauties like the Cubbies, you know, the Children's Adventure Playground, which is set up as a free child space in for the kids who didn't have much access to backyards or anything, and needed to be able to learn to play and be able to play with each other and have some safe place to be. That's still going. I don't think it's got a sheep anymore though. Has it got a sheep?
Ducks.
No, it used to have a sheep. It used to be tie-dyed. And it was always trouble to get someone to come and shear the bloody sheep. And every now and then wander out onto Brunswick Street and stop the trams. And people used to think it was a surreal experience. No more sheep, unfortunately.
So is there sort of things that you see from outside of Fitzroy that may threaten a certain local character, or may even enhance that character? Like, like a lot of people talk about, homogenisation.
I hate that word.
Yeah, and globalisation.
I was actually thinking about the word homogenous this morning, and thinking what a terrible term that was, and how actually it's about bringing everything down to something without character, as opposed to having any sense of individuality and character. And I think that tends to be what happens in the process of yuppification, which we're all going through now. I mean, I'm a great offender myself. I mean,
So things like, do you think things like the retail giants moving into?
Oh, I think the supermarket in Collingwood's and Smith Street's been a great unfortunate occurrence.
When was that built?
Oh, that was built in the early 90s.
And before that, it was just local.
Before that, it was just local greengrocers and things. And I fear for the local shop, the corner shop. I don't know that they're going to last a lot longer. There seems to be 24-hour places everywhere now.
And there's only one butcher pretty much left in the district.
Yeah, in Fitzroy. Is there one?
There's Jonathan's.
Jonathan's in Smith Street. Yeah, there is actually another one further down. But there used to be 5 or 6. Tell you what, there is a huge amount of around here, and that's hairdressing salons. There are so many hairdressing salons, you wonder how they could possibly survive. And the other thing there is so many of is travel agents. Now, travel agents and hairdressing salons, and that says something about a community, doesn't it? You're wanting to look good and leave a lot. And the other thing that used to be a common thing about Fitzroy was the shocking state of its pavements. I mean, when I had a child and tried to wheel a pram in Fitzroy, I decided you needed to have a 4-wheel drive because the pavements were appalling. You could never, if you're ever trying to negotiate just holes and cracks and, like it was really quite down the hill. It's got a lot better, really.
So do you think that Fitzroy has its own political character? Is it?
Oh, definitely. I think that the political character is schizophrenic. Actually, it's. I think there's an alliance between old-fashioned union left-wing politics and yuppie left-wing politics and workers. That's one side. That's a weird combination. And on the other side, and also sort of green environmentalists, left, that sort of left. It's very hard to talk about left and right anymore anyway, and it's pretty meaningless. But, I mean, progressive, I suppose, there's a more effective term. And then there is sort of the forces of evil, right-wing conservatism, which I think is also reasonably frequently found in this area. Again, to do with the sort of the nature of the people who are living here. I mean, there's been some fantastic political battles fought in this community. One of the best ones was the Save the Fitzroy Pool campaign, which mobilised everybody, really. The thought that we're going to lose our pool, there is only one open community sporting asset really in Fitzroy, and that is the pool. And to think that we were going to lose it for a housing development just got up everybody's nose in the most dramatic fashion. And in fact had, I think, unified the community as very few other events have. In fact, it was the only political battle that was won by a local community after the Kennett government removed the council and put in administrators before it made the amalgamation between all the different councils into the city of Yarra. So the only battle that was won by any community during that period was the Fitzroy Pool campaign. The truly extraordinary thing about the Fitzroy Pool campaign was the occupation of the pool. Now, I was an occupier.
Yeah.
I made so many new friends in the process of occupying the pool. It was fantastic. But we occupied on a 24-hour basis. We always had about 50 people down there. And
Swimming?
no, the pool was empty.
Ah, really?
Walking, you walk around the pool. No, there was no water in the pool.
Yeah.
And that was one of the problems, was it had leaks. And the council had let it degrade over years and then said, oh, it's too expensive to fix, we'll have to sell it, you know. Oh dear. But the Fitzroy Traders Association were also very involved in the Save the Pool campaign and would provide all the occupiers of the pool with any food they wanted in the process of occupation, which meant we had a long list of traders and restaurants in Fitzroy, and whoever was on breakfast duty would just simply say, ring up the restaurant of their choice and say, okay, we need breakfast for 50, and down it would come.
Wow.
So, you know, if you felt like having baker's breakfast or, you know, whatever restaurant you felt like, you'd ring up and down would come the food, and then lunch and dinner every day for months on end. We had this amazing community spirit, and we had a demonstration which was bigger than any fringe parade, and we had a media committee which had just about every major journalist from every news organ in Melbourne. That's the other thing, is a huge number of journalists that live in Fitzroy. Anyway, they were all involved in the Fitzroy Pool campaign. We had features, we had television stories, we had radio. It was fantastic, and so that was like an incredible unifying campaign which resulted in a community uprising, really, and we won it. Now, the other one that has gone on since then is the Save the Bunyip House campaign up near the other pool, Collingwood Pool, and again, I mean, they occupied that place for more than 2 years against the developers before that was won.
It's been
It has been won.
Was that just recently?
Just recently.
Yeah.
Yes, the council decided that they wouldn't allow the planning proposal to go through to demolish one of the remaining original historic houses in the area. And again, that was an amazing campaign. I mean, people sat outside that house day in, day out for 2 years. Yeah. And the other campaign that's gone on is the Save the Convent campaign down at the Children's Farm, and likewise a huge community effort to create a cultural precinct down there rather than a housing estate. So, I mean, I guess you'd say that the community can be exceedingly active. If something really gets up people's noses, then they'll go for it, you know, and we'll organise and act collectively in a really, you know, brilliant fashion, which makes you feel like it's a community worth living in, you know.
And then there was the freeway campaign.
Oh, the freeway! How could I forget the freeway campaign? That didn't get very far. I'm afraid we lost that one. Eventually.
It took
a
decade or two.
Yeah, we managed to hold it up for a long time. I wasn't terribly involved in that one, though.
Yeah. That was in the 70s?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that's happened in this area was the birth and continuing existence of Fringe Network. You know, it used to be located in Brunswick Street, the office there. And that was an arts collective. We organised, I was involved in setting that up, and we organised a festival, a Fringe festival attached to nothing, because there was no Melbourne Festival. And again, you know, campaigned long and hard for several years, running a Fringe arts festival without a main festival to try and engender some sense of an arts community in Melbourne, and that again was a very effective grassroots effort.
So the locals are alive and well?
The locals are revolting.
Thanks, Steve.